That was lovely. Thank you. I'm Scott Strang. I've known Leanne most of my life. When Leanne was newly married, one of her Vassar roommates found out that she and George would be moving to Colorado, and the roommate said, "Oh, you should look up Kit Sherry. She's in Colorado." There's a famous New York cover by Saul Steinberg that shows what the rest of the country looks like to somebody from New York. So you have 9th Avenue, 10th Avenue, the Hudson, Jersey, Chicago somewhere up there, Texas. There's a bump or two for the Rocky Mountains, LA in the distance. And that parochial perspective on geography applied equally, if not more so, to the mainline community that Leanne was raised in. It's a cosmology that puts debutante balls, Ivy League marriage prospects with careers in finance, knowing all the right people in the middle of the universe, with distant but interesting, socially insignificant places like Colorado, somewhere out there. We've all been blessed by the fact that Leanne did not buy into that cosmology at all. They moved out here, and serendipity ensued when she and George relocated from the San Luis Valley to this valley and found not only Kit Sherry, now Strang, my mother, but also Pat Fender, another Vassar graduate, ranching here. And having found each other, they promptly assembled a crack field hockey team with Laurie McBride, among others, as one does, and took on all comers. All I can say is that Vassar must have been doing something right and highly subversive to have turned out these powerful women who didn't follow the path that was laid out for them, but forged their own unexpected ways through their lives and transformed their communities as they did so. When Leanne stepped down from the trustee board of CRMS, there was a Sopra's Sun article that quoted Robin Sutherland, her friend, who nailed it when he said of Leanne, quote, "Everything she addresses, she does it from the standpoint that it matters. She has boundless personal energy. There are so many threads, and from their joining comes that fabric, which is hella strong. When you run into someone like that, stand back, because things are going to happen." My favorite view from Missouri Heights is looking to the south and southwest up the Crystal River Valley towards Chair Mountain and all that terrain back over to the west. When the weather is socked in, you can see ridge after ridge as the light pours in under the clouds from the west, and it's terrain you'd never suspect was there. And having gazed at it for my entire life growing up here in the valley, I decided a few Junes ago to hike up in there. And topping off this terrain is Huntsman's Ridge, which holds snow on its north face, so it's kind of an enticing prospect. So armed with only a vague notion of the route, as one does, Judy and I, my wife, took off on foot from the summit of McClure Pass through a grove of huge aspen trees on a jeep trail that petered out within 100 yards. And as we bushwhacked up the hill through the bracken this tall and wild rose, we came across a faint trail that seemed to be heading the direction that we were going in, but it meandered a whole lot. It was definitely a trail that was somewhat maintained, because you see the occasional fallen tree that had been sawn through. But this trail was in no hurry to get to its destination. It kept us in suspense as it wandered through the aspens, then out onto a promontory in the scrub oak that looked up the Marble River Valley. And then more aspens, wildflowers, birdsong, and eventually a jewel of a mountain meadow with a tiny stream running through it. And I've gone back there with Judy and Lulu and others and explored that terrain and found the actual trail, the old Jeep trail, which is now limited to ATVs, and it climbs up to that top very efficiently, and it's one ridge to the east from where we went up on our meandering trail, and it has the aspens covered in graffiti, birdsong and wildflowers, but it misses the meadow and the meanders. And it gets to its destination, but it misses the point. This is not really a digression. I mentioned this in order to bring up one of my favorite things about Leanne, which was her conversational style. It drove her kids nuts. In one rambling sentence, filled with subordinate clause after subordinate clause, she'd take you on a meandering journey through a series of seemingly unrelated ideas, and you'd have no clue where this was going, but you'd be sure that you're going to end up somewhere interesting with delightful digressions en route. So, I raise a metaphorical glass to the meandering, serendipitous paths that have brought all of us here together today to celebrate an extraordinary life. Leanne.
I am so deeply honored to be here in your midst. I just want to say thank you to Evan for putting together such a beautiful, beautiful program with this great balance of speaking and music, which is such a testament to his beautiful parents. And to the lovely, lovely Leslie, who, where are you? There you are, sang so beautifully just now. I haven't seen these youngsters. They were only not much younger than I was when I was growing up, but of course it seemed forever, a huge distance. And both of them in my presence yesterday separately said, "God, do you believe Leslie's voice?" said Evan. And Leslie said to me, "Evan's amazing as a composer. Have you heard him?" It's a beautiful testament to them back and forth.
I'll say something.
Absolutely. My own relationship with Leanne and George started when I came to CRMS when I was 14. And my dear friend Sarah Swinnerton and I were put together in a dorm room in the new girls' dorm, which is now the old new girls' dorm, I gather, and became just dear friends. And of course, some years went by, as Ravi said, where you kind of fall out of touch and then get back in touch. And in many ways, because of Sarah, I stayed more in touch with Leanne than I otherwise might have. But I remember particularly a summer, my brother had endured a terrible, terrible head injury. And I came to Colorado to help someone direct a play here in the barn. I just needed something to do, and Leanne took me in, and it's a very bit of a hazy summer. There's been some talk of alcohol, and I think there was a lot in my system that summer. I was really mourning because he had a head injury that was permanent. But she just welcomed me in. I sat at her table. I remember sitting up late, night after night, with a glass of wine, talking about rehearsal and then larger issues of loss in life. And what an amazing friend to so many of us. I'm going to let Kenny speak a little bit here and then talk about the songs we're going to sing for you.
So my 50-year-plus friendship with Leanne began in September of 1965, when I arrived for the first time here as Kenny Du Bois. So usually I go by Ken, but when I get back to Carbondale, I'm automatically Kenny. I can't do anything about it. So I moved into the New Boys dorm with my good friend Charlie Davison, peace be on him, and we had a room. You go in the front door, turn down to the left, and it looked like a great room. And then we discovered that And Leanne was fully capable of fulfilling a role as dorm mother, because by that time, Evan was already 3 days old. So, and Leslie was 2, so she was on her own. And that began a long relationship. I worked a couple of summers for George and Leanne up on Missouri Heights with two friends, and built a fence that has since fallen down into crumbling ashes. And then after being away for college and boarding school, Sandy and I moved back here and reestablished our friendship that went for years and included our two daughters, Dana and Megan. Many times we came over, enjoyed the music festival and holidays, and Leanne was such an important part of our lives. So, introduce the song.
So when Evan contacted me about joining you all here, which I say is such an honor, he said, I'd like some songs from the time period. So Ken and I weren't all that dear friends during our CMS years. We knew each other. We were in separate classes. You know how that happens. But we had a great time getting in touch via email and then via Zoom and talking about possible songs. And so we're going to sing several for you today. We had fun sort of trying to practice long distance because we'd never played before together. So there's this great app called Acapella, which allows you to lay down a track and send it to somebody, and then they can lay down a track and send it back, and both audio and video. So we practiced in that way, and we got together last night for another little bit of rehearsal. So the first song we're going to sing, and we hope all of these songs you'll sing along with because they come from a certain time period, is Pack Up Your Sorrows. No use crying, talking to a stranger, naming the sorrows you've seen. Too many hard times, too many sad times, and nobody knows what you mean. Singing. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me.
No use rambling, talking to a stranger, try following wandering star. No one beside you, no one to guide you, and nobody knows where you are.
But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. No use roaming, lying by the roadside, seeking a satisfied mind. Too many highways, too many byways, and nobody's walking behind. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. One more time. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. Give them all to me. Give them all to me. Now it's just such a great pleasure to have Evan come join us for the next one. Another great sing-along, spiritual, I'll Fly Away. We wanted to really give us Ginny.
No, I was just going to mention, this was written pretty much the year that Leanne was born.
So just doing a little tune thing, because as I was just attending a concert the other day, and the guy said, you want people to tune the same way you want people to check the mechanics of the airplane you're in. So, which I rather love, because they can create equal horrors. This is the D. Again, we got together last night, but this is just half the fun. I'll fly away and please sing.
One sad glad morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away to my home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning.
When
I die, hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away.
When the shadows of this life are over, I'll fly away. Like a bird from these prison walls, I'll fly. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory.
I'll fly away.
When
I die, hallelujah,
by and by, I'll fly away.
I'll fly away.
When the sorrows of this life are over, I'll fly away. No, that's not the right verse.
It's close enough to land.
We love the final verse, but we'll get the last line. To a land where joy shall never end, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory.
I'll fly away in the morning.
When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. One more time. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll
Fly away in the morning.
When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
Fly away.
I'll fly away.
Fly away.
So this last song that we'll do for you today is called "O Joy Divine of Friends," and I'm just going to briefly tell how this came to pass because it's just about George and Leanne and their beautiful home they offered to so many over the years. But again, there's this bloody tuning. So when I was probably 11 or so, not long before I came to CRMS, I suppose, I was in a living room, and the friends of my parents where we were visiting had a fireplace. And above the fireplace was this, carved into the marble, was this phrase, "O joy divine of friends." And even as a 9 or 10 or 11-year-old, whatever I was, I remember being so struck by that beautiful idea, "Oh, joy divine of friends." And then many years later, I'd been to CRMS, I'd left CRMS, I'd moved to New York City, I was pursuing my career as an actor, and I was working, as one is wont to do, with that career as a server in the Magic Pan. And I had a shift on Christmas Eve, and I had a shift on Christmas, the day after Christmas, and I had this sort of 22-year-old, 23-year-old thing, well, Christmas is just a day. I had all these people saying, come to Christmas, come to Christmas. No, I'll be fine. I've got these shifts, and I don't want to really, I couldn't afford the train, blah, blah, blah. So I get home from that shift on Christmas Eve. Remember answering machines? There's this little red light blinking, and it's my friend Kate Kelly, and she says, "Sands, this is ridiculous. There's a train leaving from Grand Central at 6:10, and you're going to be on it, and bring your guitar. We'll pick you up in Scranton," so which is where she was. And I ran down. I had a 5-floor walk-up tub in the kitchen, and I ran down those 5 stairs and across town and got on that train. And on the way to Scranton, this song came full born. It's like 2 times this has happened when a song just comes through me. And it just seems so appropriate because the kind of friendship gathered in this room today, the kind of friendship that Leanne and Leslie and Evan. The beautiful story of Eric's about going to the Himalayas together and looking for the one little glimpse of mountain and having a great time anyway. I just love that story. Just the friendship in this room. So I'm going to teach you the chorus. It comes along pretty easily. And just remember, it's mostly you eventually get to Joy Divine of Friends. So your part goes, joy divine, oh joy divine, so simple and so hard to find. All loneliness and sorrow mends in the joy divine of friends. Here's your part. Joy divine, oh joy divine, so simple and so hard to find. All loneliness and sorrow mends in the joy divine of friends. So when I nod vigorously, that's your turn. I know that it's been said before, we are orphans of the storm, cast adrift far from shore, orphans of the storm, drifted moorless on the sea by winds which rock us endlessly, till we find the land we seek. It's the joy divine of friends. Joy divine, oh joy divine, so simple and so hard to find. All loneliness and sorrow mends in the joy divine of friends. That's so good. In search of land, we're not at peace. We are orphans of the storm. We yearn for these cold winds to seize, orphans of the storm, looking for a warm, strong hand to clasp ours while we roam the land. We draw our boats up on the sand. It's the joy divine of friends. Joy divine, oh joy divine, so simple and so hard to find. All loneliness and sorrow mends in the joy divine of friends. I know that it's been said before, we are orphans of the storm, adrift, forlorn and far from shore, orphans of the storm. Oh, when we know enough to land, to draw our boats high on the sand, graced by God's true gift to man, it's the joy divine of friends. Joy divine, oh joy divine, so simple and so hard to find. All loneliness and sorrow mends in the joy divine of friends. One more time. Joy divine, oh joy divine, so simple and so hard to find. All loneliness and sorrow mends in the joy divine of friends. In the joy divine of friends. In the joy divine of friends. Give it a applause. Of course, the wonderful Evan Eustace. Thank you.